Okay, we paid a visit to Dungeon of Doom again. It's been several years since we've been there.
Yeah.
We've heard it's wonderful. We've heard it's been changed. We've heard it was excellent. But I don't know. In one word, sum up Dungeon of Doom.
One word, underwhelming is the word. I was going in there because I heard that they made these changes and hearing other reviews and how great it is, and I was kind of hyped up. I was thinking, oh wow, yeah, because I was underwhelmed the last time. I felt the same way. It just, yes, they had some great sets, and it was long, longer than most haunts, but at the same time, there was just nothing interesting to me in there. It just, I don't know, it was like just nothing we haven't seen somewhere else in other haunts. So I thought, well, yeah, they've made changes. I'm hearing great reviews. It's, everybody's saying how great it is. So I guess I had some high expectations. Unfortunately, it was kind of basically the same way it was, several years ago when we went. It was like I said, once again, there were some great sets, and there's some elaborate sets that, continue from room to room. But as far as actors, no one was really that into it. There's only a couple that I can say that I found entertaining. And but other than that, it was one of those haunts where it was just kind of going through the motions. And by the end, like the whole second half was basically a maze, a dark maze, with only a couple actors. And it's just kind of, I was at the point where, when is this going to be over with? I just couldn't wait to get out of there. And not because I was scared or anything like that. Nothing like that. Just because it wasn't interesting to me. I was bored and just kind of wanted to get out. So basically for Dungeon of Doom, I was very disappointed. I was really hoping, I wanted to love it and say, oh yeah, this is great, go see it. But unfortunately, it just didn't happen. So I'm going to have to give it...
Anything that stood out for you, positively or negatively, about Dungeon of Doom?
Well, I don't want to... Well, one thing, it had nothing to do with inside the haunt, but as far as like the line, we had VIP tickets and it still took us 45 minutes to get in because they seemed to be taking people. They were filling up these rows to for their turn to get into the haunt, and they were taking people behind us. We had our VIP bracelets and we were, in the line, but they would just take other people and ask how many they had and then pull them ahead of us. So the way they did things to get you into the haunt wasn't very fair. It wasn't by like a first come, first serve. It was kind of, they just grabbed whoever they wanted to grab, and then the rest of us all got left, even though we were VIP as well and in the same line. But that I was disappointed with because to me it was not worth a 45-minute wait. That was way too long. I'll never do that again. So that's just, I mean, if it was a fantastic haunt, and yes, I'm not going to say I wouldn't wait there for another one, but that haunt was not worth a 45-minute wait, that's for sure. And then the positive, though, I have to say once again, were the sets. There were a couple of really good sets in there, but nothing that we haven't seen in other haunts. But I mean, the set design was pretty good, but other than that, it wasn't interesting. So I'm gonna give it, just to be, I guess I'm being generous, I'll give it a 2.5 chainsaws.
Well, I agree with Laura. Underwhelming. Underwhelming is absolutely the thought that I had this time and the last time we went. And the funny thing is, the ironic thing really, is that we heard from people specifically that, oh, it's so different than when you went the last time. There's so much more added to it. It's just the best ever, essentially, to boil it all down. Well, to be honest, that's what I went in there thinking, that it's going to be different. And the only thing different that I saw was the beginning. The beginning was changed. There was a long sewer type scene, underground type of thing that I don't recall before. But I will say specifically, because it's one thing to just complain about a haunt and not give any examples, but I'll give you some specific examples. That sewer scene consisted of a lot of twisty corridors, one passage after another, sort of winding around back and forth. Some had animated props in them, some were just empty corridors, and some had actors. Not many actors, to be honest. And they really didn't seem to stand out that much in terms of acting or costuming or makeup or anything. Didn't really seem to be anything that was, wow, this is so fantastic. to the level of what the reputation of Dungeon of Doom is, which is just so outstanding. I mean, in fact, it's currently rated #1 on the Scare Factor website. It's a rated top haunt out of all the haunts in the country so far. To be frank, I don't see that. I don't at all. I don't see where that comes from. I don't understand it. I didn't understand it the last time I went to Dungeon of Doom, and I don't understand it now. Because aside from the sets that were good in the beginning, which were some, particularly the Slaughterhouse was very long and very detailed. I've never quite seen a Slaughterhouse that detailed in any haunt. Got to give it some kudos for that. But after that, following that, there's a medical area, sort of a hospital area, which is exactly the same as it was when we were there several years ago. And after that, the last 10 minutes of the haunt, which is after the Buried Alive. Dungeon of Doom, for those who don't know, have a Buried Alive portion, which is you get covered with these balls or something like that. We don't do it because, frankly, we think it's a little bit silly. But after that point, I counted a total of 6 actors from that point onward, and that includes the 2 that introduced us to the last portion of the haunt. And the last portion of the haunt is nothing but twisty corridors that are dark with some candles here and there. And there were 4 actors total in that whole last portion, which took 11 minutes. So 11 minutes of nothing, essentially. There was a temple scene, which I believe was new, which was nice. And there were 2 actors in that temple scene. And then there were 2 other actors throughout this entire portion. And again, it takes 11 minutes to go through. And speaking of that, let's talk about Dungeon of Doom's time. Dungeon of Doom bills itself as an hour-long, this interactive experience. So if you're going to bill yourself as an hour-long, it's only natural that someone going through it might want to actually see if it's actually an hour long. So we timed it. Timed it last time, it was not an hour long. Timed it again this time, it was not an hour long. And by that I don't mean it was 58 minutes and we're being picky. It wasn't like that at all. From the point you enter the haunt to the point where you get to Buried Alive, that took 28 minutes that I could
But then
recall.
you wait to get, there's a couple lines in there inside the haunt that you have to wait.
I'm not counting the wait time
Okay.
right now. So we waited 7 minutes before we got to the point where we could have participated in Buried Alive. And Buried Alive, since we waited 7 minutes, we have to assume that Buried Alive takes about 7 minutes. And another 10 minutes before the end of the haunt. But we don't count wait time, so you subtract that. So at most, we come out with about a 45-minute haunt, if you did Buried Alive. I don't know. Altogether, we were in the haunt there from 8:37 to 9:20. So, how much time is that? That's, 43 minutes? Roughly? 8:37. That's 43 minutes, and that includes our wait time.
The wait's inside the haunt.
Yeah, the wait inside the haunt. So that includes...
There were a couple areas that you had to wait to go.
Yeah, so I don't see where they come up with this 50 minutes, rather an hour. I don't see where they come up with that. And not only that, to add insult to injury there, the last third of the haunt is exactly the same as it was when we were there before, and there's nothing to it. So, unfortunately, I don't really see where Dungeon of Doom gets a reputation. It was not worth it as far as I'm concerned. Regardless of the wait outside. I know Laura gets bothered by the fact that we had to wait for the amount of time that we had to wait if we were VIP, but I don't, in a haunt that could, take 2.5 hours to go through, if we wait 45 minutes for VIP, that is a significantly smaller amount of time than it would be if you were general admission. So to me, that's VIP. It makes sense. But I agree with Laura entirely about taking people from behind us in line to put it in front of us. I don't know why they were doing that. Specifically, here's what happened.
Just randomly doing that.
While we were in the line to get to the waiting area, we saw them take people right from behind us. They said, "Oh, how many people do you have?" And they took them. And they did this more than once. And additionally, there were sort of these ultimate VIP people. I don't know who they were, but they were ultimate people that had a different colored wristband than we did.
Yeah, that was a more expensive ticket, I believe.
We're assuming this, okay?
Yes.
So when you got into the final part, before you got in the haunt, they put you in rows. And there were a series of 5 numbers, 1 through 5 on the ground. And they put people in these columns. Well, the last column, the number 1 column, that was for these ultimate VIP
It was the 5. The number 5.
Doesn't matter what number
It doesn't
it is,
matter.
but it was for these ultimate VIP people, okay? If the ultimate VIP people didn't have however many they put there, they would pull people from
The regular line.
line, not the people who were
Already
like in the
waiting.
column right next to them. which doesn't even make any sense. Why they did it that way, I don't know. And they did it several times before we got in.
Because they let them in first.
Yes, they let the ultimate VIP people in first, which makes sense, okay? But then these other people were pulled from the regular line, not from our line, not from these columns. I don't know. But I'm not knocking off for that. Not at all. All I'm saying is Dungeon of Doom is half a haunt. If you're going to call a haunt an hour long, don't have a bunch of twisty, empty corridors. That's a waste. I expect better from a haunt that costs as much as Dungeon of Doom and has the reputation Dungeon of Doom has. That's what $10 haunts that don't have actors to fill it do. Not Dungeon of Doom. So, basically in all aspects, the actors, average. The sets, very good in some parts, completely empty in others. In significant parts of others, not just little sections here and there. This idea that is completely different than it was several years ago, it isn't. Is it an hour long? No. Is it worth it? That's the bottom line. Sadly, I have to say no, for all of those specific reasons. Very underwhelming. Laura gave it 2.5, and I have to say, I'm going to give it, I'm going to give it 2.5 too. I was going to say 3, but you know what? I'm not now because of the antics in line and the fact that it's not as billed. So it's 2.5. 2.5 for me for Dungeon of Doom.
This one, it just seemed a little more laid back, which, I mean, for one, I don't know, it's just kind of cut. I lost my train. I don't know what I'm saying. Okay, let me know when I can start again. Where should I start off?
You were saying this year.
Okay.
So just start with this year.
Yeah, this year, it didn't have, like you said, it might have had been due to, not as many actors. Of course, we went on opening weekend. That could have made a difference. Maybe they just weren't. Oh, no, I hiccuped. Hang on.
We're getting so many blooper reel items.
I know, this is terrible. All right, where should I start again?
This year.
This year.
Maybe we'll finish this review this year.
Yeah, maybe we will. This year, I think...
Or maybe not.